Welcome to the Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm Barb Davids, and I'm here to help you get more website traffic and leads with simple, actionable SEO and content strategies. In each episode, I share tips and tactics and talk with other business owners who help us grow both in our business and in life. I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. I am so happy to be able to bring this interview to you with Fabienne Fredrickson. She talks about how it's not just about strategy and it's not just about willpower when we're trying to build our business and make it bigger and better and all the things that we want to do with it. So I'm going to quick read her bio and then we will jump right in. Fabienne Fredrickson is a beloved mentor to thousands of women in business. As founder of the Leveraged Business Program, Fabienne has reverse engineered how she scaled her business to several million annually while remaining powerfully feminine. Her book, The Leveraged Business, How You Can Go From Overwhelmed at 6 Figures to 7 Figures and Get Your Life Back, is the definitive roadmap showing women how to increase their income and impact with heart. Find her at boldheart.com. And also that book she offers for free. You can get it at her website, and I'll make sure to put a link in the show notes. And here you go. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Thanks, Fabienne, for joining me today on The Sweet Spot. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So happy to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you. So I came across your content back in like 2018 or 2019. And it was when I was doing my business part-time still. I was still in a full-time corporate role. And I came across this quote of yours, and it says, when you have the clarity of intention, the universe conspires with you to make it happen. I get goosebumps just saying it. It's so funny. But I put that on my phone background for like, I don't even know how long, because it was true. Like I literally went from corporate to starting my own business without even realizing really what happened. It just kind of happened. So where did you come up with, or like, can you give me some background on that quote maybe?
It's so funny. I have like three quotes that have gone around the world virally, and that's one of them.
Mhm.
And honestly, a lot of them are just like divinely brought to me. I'd like to say, oh, it was a particular moment, but it's how I live my life,
Yeah.
which is, so I'm known for being both creative and pragmatic, like right brain and left brain. So that's about really listening to my heart and then like taking action on it. So getting clarity is the strategic part, and then the creative, intentional, more abstract part of it is just really following it. I
Yeah.
just I love that quote. I'm glad
Yeah.
it was of service to you.
Yeah. I still quote it to this day when it's appropriate for whatever I'm talking about. And a lot of people love it. So I'm sure it's on a lot of phones right now.
I just recorded a podcast episode for my own podcast,
Mhm.
and it was all around one of the other quotes that has really, I've seen it in books, I've seen it, people have sent it to me being in shop front windows in Asia. And that quote is the things you're passionate about are not random, they are your calling. Anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of quotes.
That's a good one too. Oh, that's a good one. So maybe we could share a little bit about your sweet spot. So briefly go into who you help and how.
Sure. I've been a business coach for 25 years. And while I started as the founder of the client attraction system way back then, 25 years ago, my sweet spot over the last 15 years has been taking women who are at 6 figures, overwhelmed, underpaying themselves, who want to scale to 7 figures or at least multiple 6 figures and have many weeks of unplugged vacations. So that person who's already at 6 figures or close to there, who wants more but wants to get her life back, that is my sweet spot. I've written a whole book about the process. It's all about leveraging your business, 8 steps. Happy to unpack as many of them as you want. That is where I find I make the biggest difference for women entrepreneurs.
Okay. What do you feel like is probably the biggest thing that you see that do hold women back from getting to that level that they're looking for?
It's this idea that we can do everything. Let me take a tiny step back. We women are raised, reared, bred, and socialized to take care of everybody's needs before our own, that if we want to get it done right, we have to do it ourselves, and we give our time to everybody else, and we don't focus on our own priorities. So the third chapter of the book, by the way, the book is called The Leveraged Business, How You Can Go From Overwhelmed at 6 Figures to 7 Figures with Your Life Back. It's free on my website as a way to just get the message out. The third chapter is about leveraging your time. And most people think, oh, it's like, oh, time management. I know about that. I love being initially underestimated, but this is a huge deal that we as women give up our time to others to please them, to feel loved or valuable. And a big part of the Leverage Your Time chapter is about regaining all of the time that we've allowed other people to hijack from us. And then and for some women, I teach this in my program, for some women, when they do this, they get back about 1,500 hours a year. Just slowly pulling back, getting out of obligations, learning how to say no elegantly, and then taking that time and leveraging it to work on exponential growth activities and money generating activities. And just doing that alone helps you scale your business, because now you're in control of how you use your time, as opposed to putting the control in everybody else's obligation and request. It's very, very powerful. And a lot of women shed tears around this because they've never felt that they could say no, because a good girl doesn't say no. A good girl is nice and she always says yes. And I'm not saying that we're a bunch of bad girls, because I don't believe in that, but it's this idea of reclaiming yourself, reclaiming your time, reclaiming your decisions, and turning selfishness into self-care. And one of the greatest things that you can do as an act of self-love is to regain your time unapologetically and bold-heartedly.
I love that. I resonate with that like 1,000,000,000%. And I'm sure that there's some other people listening to this too. So to get started, I mean, is it as simple as just saying no? Or is there something else? Or like, how do we get to that point where we start reclaiming our time back?
There's a whole bunch of different ways to go about it. I'll name like 2 or 3. The first one is to actually notice where your time goes and who it goes to. And I apply the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, to business all the time. And I want you to think about 80-20 is where like 20% of your effort produces 80% of your results. And conversely, 80% of your effort produces only 20% of your results. And if you look at, let's say, a 10-hour day, 2 hours of what we do in our day produces 80% of our revenues. So in a day, only 2 hours are counting to really making a difference in our business, where 8 hours are mostly a waste of time. This is why so many women who are nearing 6 figures or are at 6 figures and multiple 6 figures are working so hard. Evenings, weekends, one more email and mommy will be right there, honey. And taking the laptop on vacation and never feeling like they can catch up is because not only are they working on the wrong things, right? Those 8 hours a day, not helpful, but they're accepting people's requests. They're saying yes to obligations. So it goes beyond just saying no. It means really getting clear on where your time is going, and being a compassionate but harsh critic just for a few minutes and saying, is it my mom that's calling me 3 times a day? Is it my husband that's asking me to go deliver those things? Is it that I'm agreeing to take the kids to soccer practice and t-ball, and all of this when my needs are not getting met? So it's all of that, but it's also about removing yourself from obligations that you agreed to a very long time ago that are literally not serving you. And we feel bad saying, I can no longer do this, because we don't want to be, the B word, and we don't want to be bossy or the other B word. But if we understand that the biggest thing that we can do for ourselves and our family is actually to work less and make more, then we start really looking at what are the biggest exponential growth activities that I should be working on that I'm not advancing. What is all the unfinished business? You know, that book that I've written 80% of? I can't get from a book I don't finish. That program I was going to launch? Well, if it's not launched, it's not making money. What about this partnership? What about that thing? What about bringing on somebody, a hire, let it be a mini me or somebody to run my business that would give me back all this time to work on all these things? There's so many ways to leverage your time that it goes beyond just saying no.
That's some good stuff to think about. Can you share one more thing that would be the stopper that somebody maybe doesn't realize outside of the time management?
Yes, I have people in my program work on the different categories of activities that they engage in a typical week. It's a quadrant that many of us have seen in several books. I call it the unique brilliance exercise. You've got your unique brilliance, you've got your excellence, your competence, and your incompetence. And it only takes about 10 minutes to work on this, and you realize just where your time is going and just how much money in opportunity cost is being wasted every single day. So let me explain. Unique brilliance activities are the ones that, frankly, you could do all day long. You love it. You're so good at it. People recognize you for being amazing at it. You're always wanting to learn. It comes easy. And if you were to be asked to do it for free all day, you'd say yes, because it fills your heart and it creates results. And if asked, oh, would you be willing to do it again tomorrow for free? There's a big chance you would say yes, because you're honing your skills. It just feels good. Time passes by. The excellence quadrant is also something you're recognized for and, recognized for being great at, but doing it for free all day, you would feel resentful. You're great at it, but it just doesn't have the same juice as your unique brilliance activities. The competence quadrant is where you can do it. You know how, but frankly, somebody else could do it better, and you really shouldn't be doing it if you're thinking about strategically using your time in your business. And then the incompetence quadrant is where you are so bad at this that you really should not, you have no business doing these things because they're actually costing you money. And when I teach this in the Leverage Business Program, I give them about 10 minutes to fill out all the quadrants. And what happens is they realize, like, wow, I am mostly spending my time in the excellence and the competence quadrant. A lot of people spend time doing things they can do, but frankly, they shouldn't be, and not enough time in their unique brilliance quadrant. So in the form, you've got unique brilliance on the top left and excellent on the top right, and competence and incompetence on the bottom. And then I teach people that you make 80% of your money in the unique brilliance quadrant and zero money in the bottom two quadrants. So this is where, to really leverage your time, you put an X in all of the activities in the competence quadrant and a big X in the incompetence. And within a month, I ask them to delegate, automate, or eliminate all of those things. So they spend 100% of their time in the top two activities. And within 3 years, I want them to even be out of the excellence activities and just live in their unique brilliance quadrant. And that is how you leverage your time to make so much more than you make now without working so hard.
That is Brilliant, of course. Do you do both? Follow-up question. Do you do both personal and business in the quadrants, or do you just do the business?
I usually just leave it for the business, but you could absolutely do it for personal as well.
Okay. And I know you've talked about willpower before, and I'm wondering how that sort of correlates into the time management and making sure you're choosing the right quadrants to work in. Why is that? Is that enough? And if it's not, what do we do?
I think willpower is a very interesting concept, and I think it's a very masculine concept. Willpower is of the mind and or the conscious. And if you understand how the conscious versus the subconscious works, you understand that willpower only creates 5% of results.
Mm.
95% of results come from the subconscious. Why is that? The subconscious is where how you take action. So we think, oh, I want to create bigger revenues in my business. I have to have willpower. Yeah, it's the same willpower as if you've ever been on a diet, right? We laugh because we know many of us women have been on a diet. And a lot of times, because we're only dealing with the conscious, we run out of steam at 3 months or 3 weeks or 3 days or 3 hours or 3 minutes. You know what? I'm just going to have that chocolate cake. I know I'm using an example that's a little bit like pedestrian, but real action does not come from conscious willpower. It comes from what you really believe. So you can say, I want to get my business to 1 million. But if you, on the subconscious realm, you don't believe that you can do it, you believe that it will be overwhelming. You believe that it's for other people. You believe that rich and successful people are sleazy, inauthentic thieves, and you don't want to be anything like them. From a subconscious level, you're not going to take the actions to move to getting a 7-figure business. You could be given the entire methodology, but if you don't work on increasing your wealth consciousness, removing the subconscious blocks like limiting beliefs and fears, if you don't change your identity, you won't get results. Why? Because identity drives behavior. Willpower does not drive behavior on the long term. So I'm saying all of that to say will is not what works. Working on your subconscious, right? So at Boltar, we have a mindset first methodology. If you've ever tried to do something without working on your beliefs or your identity around that thing, it will never work long term. So I have very strong beliefs. I've been teaching this mindset thing for more than 20 years. You can read all the books, you can take all the programs, but if you don't work on the subconscious, not going to work.
Yep. 1000%. And how do we work on our subconscious?
One, you get super clear about what you want, right? So do you want to get to 7 figures? I take women to 7 figures. They come to me, I want to get to 7 figures. Okay, great. What are your beliefs about people at 7 figures? What are your beliefs about having a successful business? What are your beliefs about money? What are your beliefs around your capability of doing that? And then talk to me about your fears attached to being at 7 figures. Do you have a fear of abandonment? Do you have a fear of criticism? Do you have a fear of visibility? Do you have a fear of judgment? Do you have a fear of paying taxes, more taxes? And then what is your identity? Do you see yourself on the subconscious level in the theater of your mind, right? If you imagine yourself in a dark cinema and on the screen is you, what are you seeing? Are you seeing that identity is like, yeah, that's me. I was born to be a 7-figure business owner. I was born to, make a lot of money, doing good and having a delicious life? Or do you have beliefs that say, that's for other people, I'm not equipped, this is not who I am, it will take too much time, too much work, it'll be overwhelming. All of that is what we reverse before we put in the plan. because that's the only way you'll take action.
Yeah, it goes back with that clarity of intention, right? Like if you can, I feel like there's a difference between wanting and intention. You can want something that's kind of like surface level and you think that you want it, but then when you go into intention, it's something that you feel inside. And like when I started my business, it was very much that. I was like, this is going to happen. I don't know how or like whatever, but like I started doing little things. And then that's when all of a sudden, when I was talking about it, just kind of like happened and I don't even know how. It like came before I even had a chance to think about it. And I know it was because in the beginning I was afraid of a lot of those things, the judgment, the criticism, the self-worthiness. Like there was just a crap ton of layers there, which a lot of people have. And then that finally worked itself out over the not out, working through some of it over the years, and that helps out. And I think there is the whole thing like we don't know what we don't know. And so I think meditation and getting to those beliefs is a really helpful piece when we run our own business.
As is mentorship, because when you are being mentored by somebody who has not only reached the level that you want to reach, but has done it repeatedly, they can see your blind spots. They can pinpoint in just 2 or 3 minutes. This is what happens with me with our members. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course you're trying to do this, but you have this niggly belief here because your father was a narcissist or because you had that big failure, in junior high or something like that. We need to clear that before you go and do that big launch or whatever. I believe, yes, to meditation, yes, to journaling, yes, to working on your beliefs, but mentorship is a huge part of what unlocks stuckness.
Mm-hmm.
And I know because you do mentorship as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can even take it to the fact that like, why do you talk to your best friend? Because they see things that you don't, and they'll bring things up that you maybe couldn't see.
Yeah.
So kind of an
And
encouragement.
also the part of, since you brought up, you don't know what you don't know, a person at 6 figures doesn't know what it takes to get to 7 figures, because the person, same thing with a person at 5 figures doesn't know what it takes to go to 6 figures because they've never lived it. They may have heard of what to do. They don't know what it's like. And so there's this whole body of possible knowledge that you don't know exists about hiring, about the right strategies, the closing of the sale, running a team, having systems, how to price things. A 7-figure, for example, 7-figure business owner can tell you exactly how to do it because they've done it.
Mhm.
Like, let's say a person I don't know why this example came to my mind, but a young woman who's never won a pageant is not going to figure out all of the things there is to do. What does she do? She gets coached by somebody who has won pageants. I don't know if that's a good example, but that's the one I'm sticking to for
It
now.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. All right. What else is there that you would like to share that maybe I haven't touched on? Speaking of what I don't know, what I don't know.
I really believe that there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. You need to be surrounded by a community of other people who are already there and people who are happily on their way. And the community cannot be an accidental community. So for example, you mentioned the best friend, right? Fantastic to talk to your best friend about certain things, but when it comes to your business, you need to be around other women entrepreneurs and have ideally a female mentor who's done it. And here's why. In isolation, we can have a fantastic idea. We can have a divine download. We can have just read a book and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then diminishing intent sets in. And the law of diminishing intent states that the day you have that big idea, or you read that book, or you have that conversation or that divine download, the longer the span of time sets in before you actually take action, the higher the likelihood that you'll never put it in place, right? So day one, you have this idea, but you've got a few things on your list. Day two, I'm totally going to get into it, but not today, maybe next week. And by day three, you've talked yourself out of it. You're smiling. I speak about this in front of hundreds of people, and almost everybody nods their head, especially with women, because women are built for community and we are tribal in a way. In fact, I have a mini documentary on boldheart.com about this, how we women are tribal. And when we are alone at our desks, we talk ourselves out of things. But when we are in a community of other women on the path who can mirror back our brilliance and remind us that we're capable, and who believe in us bigger than we believe in ourselves at that moment, we stay on course. And so one of the biggest things that prevents women from succeeding is actually not a lack of knowledge. Yes, knowledge is important. Strategy is important. Mentorship to get things done is important because you don't know what you don't know. But the biggest part is being in a community where making very good money is normalized, where everyone is on the path. And an accidental community, like your best friend who's not self-employed, and your neighbors, and your kids' friends' parents who are not self-employed, that's your accidental community, and that's not who you should be listening to. You should be in a community and be mentored by people who've already done it and other people who don't think you're crazy for wanting to get your business to multiple 6 or 7 figures, because they're on the path too, people who have invested in themselves. So they're not trying to tell you that the investment is not worth it. And certainly you want to be in an intentional community of other entrepreneurs and mentors who, when you've had a bad day and your launch didn't go right, or your key team member left, or cash flow is not great that month, they're not going to try to talk you out of being self-employed because it's not helpful. For them, it's like, why is it so hard? Why don't you get a real job? For us, all of us who are self-employed, who are literally now unemployable, we feel misunderstood and unsupported because we know that going back to work for somebody else is like a slow death. And so accidental communities don't really get who we are because we are the black sheep. We are different. We think differently. We are risk takers, and we don't want it plush, clock in, clock out of a miserable life. That seems like hell versus, okay, I'll pick myself up and I'll try again and I'll learn some lessons from this thing. When you're surrounded with other entrepreneurs who want the best for you, yeah, sure, you have a bad day. And then you go, just going to dust myself off and try again. Yep, they're going to give you a pity party, but it's not going to last more than a day. And come on, I'll help you. Let me share my thing with you. Let me give you some resources. Read this book. I'll be your shoulder to cry on. But let's go. Let's get up. And tomorrow's another day. And that is, especially for women, a massive part of success is the right mentorship and the right community.
Fantastic. What would you say is the one takeaway that you would like somebody to walk away from all that?
I think that belief and mindset and your environment collectively is more important than strategy. If you look at, listen, I sell strategy too, right? The strategy is a huge part of it, but you can get strategy all over the internet. With AI, you can have plans built for you and all sorts of things. I mean, like really strategy is so free that it's shocking. It's not just about the strategy. It's about structure for your entrepreneurial nature, getting accountability, getting help with your mindset, being in a community of other people that reflect back to you that you are enough, that you can do it, that you will have to stretch and get out of your comfort zone, but that you are not alone. That is the real currency that people are missing the mark about. And that's what we provide because I've been at this for 25 years. I know that it's not just about the strategy.
I love it. This whole conversation that you shared has so many great takeaways. I'm not going to say when somebody feels like they can actually take action on this and they want to work with you or just learn more from you, how can they find you?
I would recommend going to boldheart.com and doing a few things there. You'll see that there's a tab at the top that says the book. I offer my book for free. You just meet me halfway and pay the shipping. And the reason I offer it to you for free, I'm very transparent about it. I want you to read the book and say, oh my God, this is awesome. If she's giving this much in the book, I'll check out the program. So binge the book. It took me 8 years to read it. While you're there at boldheart.com, hit the film link. And it's that 9-minute documentary that I hired this filmmaking team from California to come to Connecticut and interview and watch us do our thing. And I was like, just help me explain how we do it. And they gave me a film about community. I was like, and people don't buy community. And it makes people cry. It really is. It makes me cry every time. And I would say just check out my podcast, also a tab there called The Fabienne Show. And if you want to know more about my methodology and my heart, get to know me better, that's a great place to find out. That's the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Fabienne. I am very grateful that you took the time to spend with me today and to the listeners. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.
And that wraps up this episode. Stay tuned for more episodes to help your business thrive online. We'll see you in the next sweet spot. Cheers. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're looking for SEO and content marketing help, you can find all kinds of information at compassdigitalstrategies.com. And if you like the episode, please tell a friend. Cheers.